Story 1. I make decent money and generally can afford most things I want. I'm currently in the market for a vehicle that has to have more than 6 seats, and I am blown away by how much minivans are going for these days. For a higher trim level, you can be paying like $60,000. That doesn't seem worth it. Story 2. I used to be a firm defender of Disneyland's prices, because their tickets were on par with most other amusement parks, but for significantly more entertainment value and things to do. Their food was similarly priced but for better taste. The only expensive thing was traveling if you don't live near it. I honestly felt like, at least when it came to man-made attractions, Disneyland was one of the best values for the money. But now? Absolutely not. Ticket prices alone have increased 60% in the past decade, and most people's incomes sure as hell haven't increased that much in the same period. They charge way more for food that now is way lower quality most of the time. The on-site hotels are insanely priced now. And now they charge for things that used to be included with your ticket, such as FastPass. All of this on top of them firing most of their senior mechanics years ago, so the rides are breaking down far more often or just permanently run in the worst mode. While I am not saying I'll never go back ever in my life, Disneyland went from a somewhat regular trip to me just saying it isn't worth it at all financially. Story 3. Subscription-based services and games. One-time purchase or nothing. Land ownership. Even poorly developed land on a floodplain is absolutely insane right now. Fast food. Your burger's ingredients cost $2, but you're charging $12 for it? Story 4. Airbnb. Hotels are now sometimes much cheaper once you add in all the extra charges, often better located, more convenient for arrivals and departures, and do not make me do their chores for them. Unless you have no option or are traveling with a group, Airbnb no longer makes any sense. Story 5. Eating out in general has become outrageous. First, the meal price itself is ridiculous, and then you have cities adding meal taxes on top to get their share. Shaking my head. Story 6. If you are trying to buy a house, most people cannot afford the deposit unless they get significant help from the bank of mom and dad or inheritance. Or if you are a homeowner already, one little unexpected expense like the boiler will set you back a fair amount of money, or the interest rates go up so much that you can no longer afford the mortgage payments. You cannot win, really. At least in the UK, it is a joke for millennials and Generation Z to get onto the housing ladder. Hopefully, this will be a problem that can be addressed in the next decade or two. But right now, the housing market is looking extremely unsustainable in this country. Story 7. Movie theater experience. It got to the point where the tickets, parking, price of popcorn, and dealing with strangers chatting was too much for me. Growing up, there was a really cheap theater in my neighborhood. Those days are gone. Story 8. Buying a house. The choice here in Southern California is to either rent for $3,000 a month or buy for $6,000 plus a month. Next in line to your question is even living here in the first place. Working from home and shutdowns were the best thing to ever happen to Los Angeles. That was the moment I was able to see myself living here for a while longer. But now that traffic and air quality are back to pre-pandemic levels, this place just feels like garbage to me. If it wasn't for my fiancé wanting to stick around here due to family and friends, I'd be looking for a city with a fraction of Los Angeles's population. Story 9. Going to the cinema in Italy, it's like €12 and you still have to watch 20 minutes of ads before the movie. Unbearable. The only reason to go is choosing Cinema d'Essai where you can actually get to watch hidden gems, and it's even cheaper. Story 10. As an Austrian, skiing was a significant part of my upbringing. Growing up, skiing was practically a tradition everyone engaged in during winter. Every child learned how to ski, and there was even a dedicated week at school for that. However, in the last 15 years, skiing has become incredibly expensive that it has turned into a luxury activity. Unless you live in the immediate area of a skiing resort, where buying a seasonal ticket is worth it, it becomes financially challenging to participate. I feel like our nation is robbing itself of its national sport, and I also don't see how this will ever change. Climate change is likely to push the costs even further, making it even more inaccessible. Story 11. I think people are starting to realize we have been lied to ever since we removed the gold standard. When you allow a small group of humans to control the expansion of the money supply, The quality of life for all the people actually creating value in an economy will suffer. Everything is getting too expensive. Story 12. Flagship smartphones, particularly in the realm of Android devices, present an interesting question beyond their camera capabilities. Why purchase one? One might wonder which native game truly leverages all that power. Oh no, after an update, the performance slows down, prompting yet another upgrade. Interestingly, my basic Motorola G Play sometimes operates more smoothly than my Galaxy S23 Ultra. Story 13. Dîner à la carte. Not just because it got too expensive, but also because the portion sizes have been greatly reduced since the pandemic, which results in you going home still hungry. Going to a restaurant for a few hours nowadays is more expensive than enjoying a full day in a theme park, zoo, or similar places. Another thing is getting a pizza delivered. The total price of the pizza plus the delivery has doubled in the last few years. Story 14. To be honest, visiting football matches has become quite expensive. For a seat with a nice view, you're at least paying 60 to 70 euros against an opponent which isn't an attractive match. I miss the days when you were able to visit a match for around 25 euros. Story 15. Most professional sporting events offer much better views of the game. They are available free. You can watch with friends. Food and drink are way cheaper and better. There's no concern about drinking and driving. Story 16. I feel like it's a necessity, but it's gotten way out of hand, those vet bills. You go in for an annual screening for a healthy dog and walk out with a quote for over $500 of tests and shots. If you've got more than one pet, you're leaving the vet with an Affirm mini personal loan. I've ended up just going for the basic preventive minimum and getting their shots from periodic free clinics and getting generic medications from Canadian pharmacies. It saves me hundreds a year. Story 17. Most restaurants, especially chain places, have seen a change. My family used to love chain restaurants like Red Robin and Chili's. Since COVID-19, the price has gotten exorbitant while the quality has dropped dramatically, and the menus have shrunk. Each time we've gone to one of these types of restaurants within the last year or so, we've walked out saying, well, we don't have to come here again, which is a shame because it used to be an easy comfort meal for a reasonable price. Oh well. Story 18. Honestly, eating out used to be a treat. Now it's just crazy expensive for what you get. I'd rather cook at home. At least then, I know I'm getting my money's worth. Story 19. Going to a Major League Baseball or National Football League game. Used to have partial season tickets for the Yankees. Now, one game for a family of 4 in similar seats costs as much as my plan of 17 games. Forget them. Story 20. Eating at a sit-down restaurant in general, I was never a big fan to begin with, but I just went to a Mexican restaurant with my family in Breckenridge last week. It feels like every meal costs $30 or more, not including any drinks or the 20% tip you are expected to pay. I don't see why you have to spend over $40 for one meal. Story 21. But fast food. I got a quarter-pound mushroom Swiss burger with fries from a dive bar for $6.50 last month. A double Whopper from Burger King with the same patty weight with medium fries is about $12. I had a friend spend $25 yesterday for 2 burgers and a milkshake from Culver's. Potato chips, $7 a bag for plain Lay's? They're just potatoes. Story 22. A trip there was never cheap, but today, a 3-day trip for a family of 4 can easily run over $5,000. Combine the cost with the crowds and heat, it's just not worth it. Story 23. Paintball used to be my life. When the economy was good, it was still expensive, but it wasn't so bad because everyone had more money. Now, with the economy being poor, even a cheap day of paintball is at least $75, and a decent cheap gear setup pushes $300. Story 24. Facebook and Instagram. In Europe, you used to be able to decline cookies. Now, they ask you to either consent to your data being sold or pay a monthly fee just to access their sites or apps. Story 25. Healthcare. I pay $400 a paycheck for insurance, but I have to pay $3,000 out of pocket before insurance will pay anything. But then, I have to pay 20% plus a $20 to $50 copay, and I have to go to the building you tell me is in my network. However, I have no way to know if the providers in that building are in my network. nor do I have any say in which providers in that building end up seeing me. So, I get slapped with an out-of-network bill I had no way of avoiding. So, this massive accident I had no control over ends up costing me $100,000 anyway. Oh, and the ambulance ride isn't covered at all, and that's a separate $150,000. Man, just let me bleed out on the highway. Story 26. Eating, going to a dentist, seeing a doctor, playing video games, buying vitamins you need, university education, having a spouse and children, life and fire insurance, off the top of my head. Story 27. It has probably been said already, but McDonald's. It has definitely become more expensive in the United Kingdom. A large Big Mac meal is now £8, which is really insane. A couple of years ago, I used to get the £2 Big Mac meals on the back of my bus tickets, but now I rarely get McDonald's. Story 28. Definitely concerts. I understand that nobody is getting rich by putting on concerts, but for the average music fan, a big-name show costs several $100s. By the time you have a couple of cocktails, go out for dinner, get a hotel, or take taxis or Ubers for the evening, it's just way too expensive to go to a concert. Story 29. Disneyland tickets. Especially since the money is not going to the employees. Story 30. The New York Comic Con tickets are $75 each, and adding travel costs brings it to about $160 before even arriving. Add food, possibly additional transportation if the weather is unpleasant, and whatever I want to grab at the convention, and we're around $250 to $300. They do not even have much in the way of free stuff anymore. They used to give away tons of free books, downloads, and other items. It makes for an expensive 12 or so hours, and I just cannot justify it anymore. Story 31. Most mobile games now have everything locked behind advertisements and paywalls, which makes silly little games that used to be fun for killing a bit of free time not worth it anymore. Story 32. Movie theater. I was obsessed as a kid too. It felt so magical. Now, everybody in the audience is loud the whole time, the sound mixing is terrible, so I need subtitles, the delicious snacks are unjustifiably expensive on top of the overpriced ticket. Can't pause it to go to the bathroom and have to spend even more money on gas just to get there. All that for the movie to appear a few months later on one of the streaming services you already pay for. Just doesn't seem remotely worth the trouble or expense anymore. Story 33. Pubs and bars for a drink in the UK. You're talking an average of £6 a pint. I can go to a supermarket and get a crate of 20, so about 10 pints for the price of 3 in a pub or bar. Beer was supposed to be cheap. Even the stuff brewed in the UK is practically the same price as the imported stuff. What happened? I just want a cheap beer and a good night out. Story 34. The only toy I've ever wanted since being a kid and first visiting Disneyland is the Star Speeder 3000. I've been waiting forever for them to make one like this. And, of course, it's some weird exclusive rare thing they'll never make again, that I can only get on eBay for an inflated 400% price. Story 35. Fast food. It's only a couple of dollars more to eat at a real restaurant now. It was never good, but when I could eat a bunch of food for around $8, it was worth it occasionally. Now it's like $14 for a Big Mac meal, and I can go get a much better burger and fries from a local restaurant for $16 to $17. Story 36. Football in the United Kingdom. Are you interested in watching a Premier League game? Consider the costs: travel, tickets, food, perhaps a few drinks, and a program. It amounts to north of £150, marking it no longer the working man's game. Even attending a game of my local lower league team would cost around £50 for a ticket, beers, and food. I'll stick to listening on the radio, thank you. Story 37. Eating out or regular takeaways. I have started cooking almost all meals at home, barring the odd meals out with friends, and my health has improved, and I have so much more savings each month. My favorite hobby is finding delicious meals that take less than 20 minutes to make from scratch. Story 38. Preventive care. I am not sure how they come up with the charges, but I was worried about wrist pain. I chatted with the doctor, we took an x-ray, and she gave me some stretching exercises. The whole visit was 15 minutes. Cost $400. Story 39. Culver's for the win. Today, I got a double burger, fries, and a drink. My mom got a kid's meal, which includes fries and a drink. And my dad got a Reuben with fries and a drink. Altogether, it was $28.50. Story 40. I probably speak for many average first-time homebuyers here, but the cost of housing and even rent is astounding. A home that would have sold for $120,000 years ago is now over $200,000 in my area. Just nuts. I truly don't know how first-time homebuyers are even managing it. Story 41. Hot Wheels. The prices of good models are so inflated that even the retailers do not put them on display. Instead, they sell those on other websites with huge margins. Forget about finding a Japanese domestic market or European car in any store in the world. Story 42. Vacationing. Good hotels keep hiking up their prices because their corporate overlords want record profits. Find an Airbnb? There's a 500% cleaning charge, which is nonsensical. Let's say you find the perfect quiet and that's not too expensive. The car shortage is pushing rental prices through the roof. Grocery prices also now mean exploring the local food culture is a minefield for those on a budget. Lastly, if you are in a place like Canada, good luck getting proper flights at proper fares.